Here's an actual cool fact, yo. Did y'all know that you get 86,400 seconds deposited into your day? So you get that much time in your day. Now the question is, what are you utilizing that time to do? Are you impacting lives? Are you impacting your organization? I always love to tell like entrepreneurs, Fortune 500 leaders, executives, what are you doing to help excel yourself, upskill yourself so you can be able to impact your organization on a day-to-day basis? What we do on this podcast is help bring in the top tier talent so you're able to learn, you'll be able to continue to build on to what you constantly are doing as a leader so you can continually transform your organization. The way you can help us do that, to bring in that top tier talent all the time, is to be able to subscribe down below. Because what that does, it allows us to continue to bring in those type of people that you want to hear. I'll see you in the episode. Reflecting on your HR career, what has been a pivotal moment or experience in your career that has shaped your career to help you align your HR strategies with business goals?
So you'll probably be surprised, but it happened really early on. Prior to actually being an HR practitioner, I was working in public relations at a university. While I was there, I was part of a union. As part of the union, I decided that I wanted to be on the board and actually help out. So I was there for a couple of years. I was doing labor and employee relations, and I got voted into the contract committee.
Okay.
So actually doing contract negotiations for our union. And then they stuck me in contract language, which was probably the least fun committee that you could be on because you had to actually go through the book and be like, where could they trip us up, right? Like, where are we going to lose something? And being on that negotiation committee and really just kind of sitting at the table and listening to the administrators from the university talk to us about the business and this whole back and forth where we're asking for things, they're telling us they can't give them to us, we're fighting for them, they're saying why they can't give it, we still have to fight more, then finally they give it to us, and then it was like this really just crazy experience of figuring out what is the best way to move forward for both sides.
Yeah.
And so when I'm working now as an HR practitioner, right, and I'm working with my people, I always see my role as being the person who's kind of in the middle. I am for the company and I'm also for the people. At the same time, I have to defend company from people. I have to defend people from company so that no one is ever taking advantage to anyone at any time.
Right.
And so my strategy is always to figure out how can we treat our people the best way while still making sure that the company is healthy. So one of the things that I did see while being at the university was we had multiple unions. So there's a clerical union, there's like the manufacturers union or the people that were doing the mechanical labor and things like that. There would be the union for the professors and all of this business. And a lot of the times the professors would come in and be like, hey, we want X, Y, Z, and they would kind of throw their weight around and push the university to the point where they're going under, right? Like their business is probably in trouble. At that point, this is no longer good for anyone, right? If the body doesn't survive, all of the parts die.
Exactly.
Right?
Yep.
And so for me, it's always really important to figure out what can I do with what I have in order to make sure that I am aligning everybody's goals, right? So if the business is telling me, we want to make X amount of revenue this year, I need to figure out, okay, what does that take on my end? How many people do you need through the door? What kind of skills do you need? What's the best way to move forward? Do we reskill the people that we have if we don't have those skills right now, but we have people that are kind of sitting around not doing anything since we work in consulting? So it's always, from that experience of just being at the negotiating table and just being with the different unions and kind of seeing this kind of push and pull, just always has been in my mind, where it's like I always have to kind of sit in the middle and make sure that, while most people will see human resources as like, oh, you work for the company, you're not here to help me, that's not true in my case. I always have to make sure, because if that's really how they feel, then they're never going to be happy working for us, you know what I mean, or working with us.
Well, give me a breakdown. We're going to come back to that because that we need to dive heavily into that, and like how you going through those situations. What was your mindset during that time? You know, but I want to know a little bit more about exactly where you come from.
Mm-hmm.
Where do you come from? How did you get to the place you are today? Because you have folks that maybe HR professionals that want to get to where you are, want to be able to, I mean, you work for an amazing startup. Well, actually, you guys aren't even a startup anymore. But you work for an amazing company that employs over 70 employees. So, like, you guys are crushing it in the tech space. How did you get to where you are today? We're here in New York City, but I know you're out of New Jersey. But how did you get to where you are today? Let the folks know.
Oh man, that's a little bit of luck, honestly, and a little bit of Christina can't shut her mouth. So originally, I'm from New Jersey. I'm from North Bergen, Union City.
Jersey.
Cuban American family.
Cuba.
You know, grew up with my parents always saying I had to go to school.
Okay.
No matter what, I had to go to college. To the point where I didn't apply to college, and my mom straight up like dragged me to the admissions office and said my daughter needs to go to school, and no, you just didn't get her application, and like straight up like talked me into freshman year.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it was interesting, but at the time I was really interested in music. I loved singing, I loved performing, I loved doing stuff. I wanted to be on Broadway. It was just like all the things, but I did not have a stage mom. So I ended up going to school. They didn't have the program I wanted at the time. I wasn't into classical singing, and, you know, kind of got forced into it. After 2 years, I left. And then I went back to school in 2003, and I actually finished my music degree then, and then I did a master's. When I was done with my master's, I started working at my college, and my husband came back and said, hey, let's start a family. Like, I was getting ready to go audition. I was going to go to Europe. I was going to sing in France and England and all these fancy places. And he decided, you know, let's have a conversation, you know, like, we should start our family. We don't, you know, time is ticking. And I was like, yeah, that's true. You don't have a lot of time. So for me, it was about figuring out, what can I do that is not me traveling around the world, that is not me being on a stage all the time. And so my choices were, all right, I have this music degree that I paid a whole lot of money for, and I know a lot about because,
right,
you know, I did the work. What else can I do that isn't performing? And so the two things I came up with were either doing public relations or doing human resources. Because I was like, I can go work for the Met and I can hire the singers.
No, right? You could. That's true.
Because I know what I'm listening to, and I can just bring them in. And so while I was working at the college, you know, it was free tuition, so I just took advantage of it. I took every course that I could. I finished doing like a public relations certification that they offered. I finished my BSBA, and it was a good idea. A lot of folks were like, why didn't you just do an MBA? And I was like, because that would cost me money. Doing the bachelor's was free, which was nice.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt like it filled in a few gaps that I didn't have from doing a music degree, where, you know, you had to take finance and accounting and all these other things that you would normally take. Then I was starting to look around. I wanted to see if I could find a job doing public relations and human resources. So really, I just started throwing resumes out there and just seeing if anybody was going to bite. And I didn't get anything right away. And then in 2020, as we were going into the pandemic, my husband had a friend that he used to work with over at Dow Jones.
Mm-hmm.
And his son and my son have been inseparable basically since birth. And so one day I got called and it's like, hey, bring, you know, Gabriel over to a play date. And I was like, okay, cool, I'll go take him. And so I brought him to this person's house, and it happens to be my now boss. So it's actually Millen's house.
Small world.
And
like,
it's
what?
a small world.
You can't
And so
even make
I
that
think
up.
that he was having conversations with my husband about stuff at some point at a play date, or something happened.
Mm-hmm.
And so, you know, I was kind of sitting there, and honestly, I didn't know them very well because they were acquaintances of my husband. And so we just started kind of having a conversation, and, you know, he was asking me about, oh, so like you did HR and this and that, because he's kind of getting to know me. And I was like, yeah, you know, so it was pretty interesting. And he was like, well, what do you like the most? And I was like, honestly, I love engagement. Employee engagement is super fascinating. And it really is, because, you know, you see all of these studies about employees who aren't engaged, that they don't want to do the work or whatever it is. And I'm like, you know what? you got to give people a reason to do something.
Exactly.
Right? It's not about, and we can talk about this more, but there's only so much you can do with extrinsic motivation, right? Where it's like, I will pay you so much money, I will give you all these things. If somebody internally just doesn't find value in what they're doing, they're not going to want to do it. And so, of course, I'm going like a mile a minute talking about this with him. And this is the part where I told you, like, Christina wouldn't shut up. And so, Millen just kind of looked at me. He's like, do you want to be a recruiter? And I said, no.
No,
I don't want to
no.
I was like, I don't want to be a recruiter. I would be horrible as a recruiter. And he was like, but I'm looking for a recruiter. I could really use a recruiter. And I was like, I don't even know how to do an interview. Like, I don't know how to ask questions. I'm not trained. I don't know none of this stuff.
Right.
And he was like, that's okay. I was like, really? And he was like, yeah, I think you'll be fine. I was like, okay. So then we just started having conversations, and I met with his co-founder, Mahesh. And they were like, okay, yeah, let's bring you on. And then the pandemic hit. So this was like in January. And
wow.
So I was interviewing with his engineers in February.
Okay.
So I was actually meeting the team. And at that time, there were only like 15 of us. And so then in March, he was like, listen, small business, like, we don't know what's going to happen. We think we can't hire you right now. But we do want to bring you on. Like, everybody loved you. We want to bring you, but we need to wait. And I was like, okay, that's cool. And I was like, I totally get it. And so I continued working. At the time, I was working in public relations, and I was working for a conservatory. So I was working for the school that I graduated from, Westminster Choir College in Princeton. And public relations during the pandemic basically meant I wasn't going to really be doing much because we were having no performances. And so, like furlough was coming and things like that. And so, after a couple of months, Millen came back and he checked in with me, and he's like, is everything still okay at your job? Your job, we'll just hire you right away. Like, we're still waiting to see what happens because the world had gone upside down. But, the idea that they would put that much care into making that kind of decision really just kind of hooked me in and really made me want to work with them. Especially, just the thought of, hey, if anything happens, just tell us and we'll bring you in as soon as we can and we'll figure out how to make it work. And so I've been there now 4.5 years, starting as a recruiter, bringing in the engineers, and then moving on into more sort of a people operations function.
Amazing story. I mean, even when we first had our conversation a while ago, you told me this, like the closeness between you and Millen and like, and Mesh, right? And like how that story even came about. I'm like, even like your kids and everyone is pretty close and tight. So like, this is cool and unique how like situations like that just come about and how it happens naturally like that. I definitely don't want to skip over. I know you were going over. Basically, you're an opera singer. We can't skip over that. Like, she tried to like just go over that really quickly. Come on. Like, tell us a little bit about that experience. Like, that had to be pretty awesome. Like, from opera to public relations to HR. Come on. Like, you got to give us something here. Maybe give us a little. No, I'm joking. But tell us that experience. Like, doing that. Like, what was that like? That had to be like such an amazing experience.
It was stressful. It really was.
It was stressful. Okay. How so?
So here's the thing, right? It's something. Musicians are interesting, right? You have instrumentalists, and then you have people that are vocalists. Vocalists, a lot of the time, like, maybe they don't do all of the theory work and all the other stuff, and it's all about like, this is how I feel, right? This is what I'm gonna do. And in most cases, because your body is your instrument, it's very personal.
Yeah.
Like, if somebody rejects you or says something to you, you're just kind of like, you hate me, right? Whereas, like, I feel like instrumentalists can always be like, oh, it's my trumpet, just whatever. It's like a separate part of you.
Yeah.
But the stressful part wasn't necessarily the performance. The schooling was insane. Like, I found a notebook from my sophomore year, and I was looking, and I was like, oh, so nostalgic, going through the pages and stuff and like looking at what I worked on. But in the front of the cover, like if you look at those 5-star notebooks, like there's a part where you can put your schedule in, right? And I looked at it, and I had 9 classes in one semester.
Wow.
9. Most kids in college will complain if they have 4.
Exactly. Yeah. 9. That's a lot of classes, though.
It's a lot of classes.
Especially in one semester. Yeah.
But to get through the program, and I was in school from 8 in the morning until about 8 at night, especially if we were doing an opera, because the opera class usually ran from 6 to 9 o'clock.
Mm-hmm.
So it was like 3 hours twice a week. And then as you got closer to the actual production, you had like tech week and all this other stuff. So it was a lot more.
Right.
The part that kind of got me was just kind of like the auditioning. Like, you really have to have a thick skin. You have to have the time for it. In some cases, there's like a pay to play kind of part of it, where if you want to do young artist programs, or you want to like do things once you get out of school, you have to pay just to get in the door to audition, and you have to pay for them to process your application. And I remember one summer when I was looking at some different things that I wanted to apply to, it was like $1,000 just in applications and accompanist fees. And I just kind of sat there and I was like, that's just too much, I actually sang for Gelitha Nichols over at the Metropolitan Opera once, which was really cool, and she was very encouraging. But at the same time, it was just kind of like, there's a lot. Chances of really being successful at this and still loving it were not as high as I would want them to be, right? And so for me now, I sing at my local church. Like, I cantored for a while when I was in college. Most of us that are vocalists, like, we will work at a church. That's common.
On
the weekends
fair.
And stuff like that,
Yeah.
and be in the choir and be the ringers. And I did that as well while I was in school. And then now recently I kind of found it again, and there's a certain, I don't know, there's a certain satisfaction to it. There's a certain sort of feeling of fulfillment to kind of be able to go and do that and actually bring some kind of peace or solace to people when I'm actually at church and singing. It's going to get dark. Like, we would do a lot of funerals and things like that. And, after something where someone loses a loved one and they come to you and they were like, my husband would have loved that you were his favorite. You know what I mean? It was like,
you just like,
like you're just kind of like, I love that. Like, he would come when I was singing at mass instead of one of the other cantors because I was his favorite. And then, to have me actually be there for his funeral, she's like, he really would have wanted you here, kind of a thing. And it's
right.
like, you see the impact that you have on people in their lives, you know what I mean? And it's not just, to go out and sing to make money or whatever it is. There's more of that kind of like service aspect of it, which I love.
That's beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Could you give us a sample?
Really?
You give us a sample? I mean, if you feel comfortable. I don't know. I just want to put you on the spot here.
Oh, man.
And I got another cool question, HR question for you.
So, we're getting ready for Holy Week. We have this one song. It's a spiritual. I'll give you a tidbit of it.
Okay.
Right? Forgive us, O our Father. Forgive us, O my Lord, for they don't know just what they're doing. They're killing the Son of God.
Wow. Thank you. I didn't know if you were gonna do it or not. I didn't know if you were
I
gonna
would do it for you.
Wow. Amazing.
Thanks.
Amazing. Wow. I don't even know what to say right now.
So Wednesday, you can come to Mass and you'll hear the whole piece.
Okay. Wow. Like, I just gotta applaud you on that.
Grazie.
Yeah. I could definitely see, yeah, like the folk, you've done this for years, I could see. Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
And it's just, it becomes part of who you are. And a lot of people, what's interesting is when you, and I think you get this too, right? Being as a professional athlete, there's like a certain point where you study, you work.
Yeah.
And you have your technique to a point where you're just like, I know I can do anything. I'm going to kill it. This is just like,
Yeah, this is like your target.
And for musicians, I've seen this happen with other people that I went to school with, where they were just like, you know what, this is just, I can't keep doing this anymore. Like, it's too much. I got bills to pay.
Right.
And they won't sing anymore, or they won't play anymore, because they remember what it was like when they were at their like top of their game.
Yeah.
And then it was just kind of like, it's not worth it. Like, why am I doing this? It's like, it doesn't feel good anymore. It doesn't like...
It doesn't bring the joy
Yeah.
that normally like they got when they first initially got into it. I mean, do you think, was it more monetary for them to get to that goal? And then it was like, okay, all right, peak. And then it's like, all right, you got to transition to something else. Or is it like, hey, I love this my entire life. And even with my kids, I'm going to sing. I'm going to sing in the shower. I'm going to sing. Like, what do you think, like, the differences?
I think in a lot of cases, stuff like this, right? Like whether it's sports, it's music, art, everybody gets into it because they love it.
Right.
Right. And it's like, oh my God, I love doing this thing. And then it becomes part of your identity. Right. Like the same way that you do with work. It's like, I'm sure when you were playing, you're like, I'm an NFL player. That's me. That's who I am.
This is who I am.
Right. And so when you get to that point where you're not playing at the level that you used to, you're just kind of like, I'm not really an NFL player anymore. Maybe I'm like in the minors, you know? And at that point you're like, but this isn't as much fun because even the people that I played with, right, were at such an excellent level that the people I play with now are not as good as I used to play with, you know?
Yeah.
And so there's almost like there's that little bit of disconnect, but it's almost like there's the grieving, right, of losing who you were. And so for me, I didn't sing for years. So I've been living down the street from this church for 10 years, and not once did I go over there and be like, hey, I want to come sing in the church.
Right.
Like that took a long time for me to just kind of be like, I am missing something and I don't like it and I want to get it back. And so I straight up just went up to Carol, who is the music director at my church, and I just told her, I was like, when do you start choir? And she was like, next week. And I was like, okay.
It's like that was a sign right there.
And I was just, I was just trying to tell her, I was like, I have a master's in music. I was a singer at Westminster. And she was just like, great.
All right.
I was like, okay.
Let's get
and
you
then
in.
I joined, and so now she has me in the choir. She has me cantering the masses and stuff like that with other people. And she's just like, she's beautiful. I love her. And I'm like, I love you. She's awesome. She's a hell of a pianist. Let me tell you.
Y'all flow with each other.
And so there's something about being part of a team. And I think with musicians, like being in an orchestra, being in a choir, right, where you're doing something together, there's something about that just kind of like really makes it special. And what I always thought was interesting about being in a choir was, or even just doing live music, is there's also, like, if you're looking at it from a scientific perspective, right, there's all these sympathetic vibrations that happen in your body. So like when you speak, when you sing, all of those things, your voice is like the compilation of everything that is you, right? The shape of your face, your vocal tract, all of it, right? The length of your vocal folds, like all of these things come together to create that unique voice that is you, right? Yeah. And when you sing or you start doing things, there's vibration there, and all of those like physical vibrations, like you feel it in your body when you're singing, right? That's why a lot of people just love to sing even if they can't, right? Yeah. And when you're in a group or you're like just in live music, it's even crazier because it's like everybody together is like doing the thing, you know what I mean? And then you just kind of feel that kind of wash over you, and you're just like, wow, this is so cool. Yeah,
it flows. I mean, because they say, we have the human body is what, 99% water or something like that. So, yeah, I probably went a little over there, but it's a lot of water in our bodies.
At least 2/3.
2/3. So literally, yeah. So literally, when we're singing, I mean, those vibrations. That's what they say. Like BPMs, you listen to, like being careful with what you do listen to, like making sure you listen to more positive music, because if you listen to more negative, like that affects your overall like.
Well, I mean, look at Calm, right? Calm has those things where it's like, listen to these sounds and you'll feel better. And
That's true.
It's just like a white noise track.
Exactly.
Right. All of those things. It's just how it kind of vibrates with you and how it affects your brain and things like that. I just find that in a live setting, it just always hits you harder. Oh yeah. Right. Like if you're in front of it and it's just kind of there, and you're in a hall or whatever it is, like it just, like that's something I think everybody should experience, not just from your speakers, but like in a live setting. So the question you were asking about the strategic partner as far as like HR. The past few years has been really interesting. I don't want to say too exciting, but it's been really interesting the way that the people function has evolved. Most people, again, like, don't grow up thinking, oh, I want to be like a VP of HR, right? Like, that's my dream. No, you want to be an astronaut. You want to be something cool, right? You don't want to be a VP of HR. But it's become, and usually like HR is kind of like the joke, right? Like, what was it? There's an Apple series, the one where they like make the video game. Do you remember that one?
No.
My engineers had to point me to it, but there's like this Apple series, I forget the name of it, and it was like, it's a gaming company, and they're, putting a video game together.
Okay.
And the HR person is basically like therapy. Like, people come in to talk to the HR lady, and they go and they like throw themselves on her couch, and she's like, why are you here? This is not what I do. Get out. And it's like, this is not therapy. But it definitely has become a lot more psychological. I think that businesses are starting to realize the impact that a really good people department can have on the overall business. And I think that, beyond, I, set up benefits, or I, do payroll, or I do these other things, which were very transactional, we've gotten to a place where, and I will say it because SHRM now has this slogan where it's like, if it's a work thing, it's an HR thing. And it really is. There's no other department that you can look at that touches every part of the business.
No, that's true.
Every part.
Yep.
And it's because we touch every person in the business. And so for me, especially, like, when I'm doing stuff at work, it's like, do I push the button? If I push the button, there's like 70 people that they're going to be mad at me or not. Like, I don't know if I should do the thing.
Yeah, get affected. Yeah.
Because any type of initiative that I want to put forth, any kind of suggestion that I'm going to make, is going to affect every single person I work with.
Right.
And the pandemic was the one thing that I think really threw, especially senior leadership, into the spotlight, because at that point, most companies were kind of sitting there and just going, what can we do? It's not even just like, what do we do, but what can we do? Like, legally, what are we allowed to ask people to do? Like, they're going to be working from home. Can we even do that? Where's the HR people? They know what we can do because it's a people thing, right? And then it became a lot of other things. And it was really interesting just to see all the sort of innovations, of course, like with being able to do remote work and all these other things that now, HR professionals are kind of like, look, there's a lot of stuff that we can really dig into just from a psychological perspective of whether or not, employees are happy, whether they're stressed, whether they're motivated, like how that really affects the bottom line. The hardest thing, I think, when you're looking at people strategies in general, is really translating how that affects the bottom line, right? And looking at the return on the investment.
That's always the golden goose question,
because when you're looking at something and it's like, all right, well, how's things going? Well, turnover rate looks good. People are not leaving us, right? Or when we interview people, how many people actually join our company over another company, right? And that's going to be a lot about their experience with our people, what kind of benefits we offer and all the other things. But I always find that with any business, like, people are all different. Somebody might want to, like, everybody wants to feel appreciated. Everybody wants to feel valued. At the end of the day, everybody does. Right? You want to feel like you didn't just waste your life, because you're never getting that time back. Right?
That's true.
So did I spend my time in a way that I brought value, that I feel like this was worthwhile for me? Right? So that could be money. That could be recognition, just being able to say good job, pat on the back. That could be, you just take care of me, right? And you listen when I need something. That could be whatever it is, right? That just makes a person feel like they're seen and they're heard. And I think any business that does that well is going to have a population that is engaged, that is doing the work. But again, it's really hard to tailor everything to everyone, right?
Yeah.
And so it's really, at that point, you're depending on whoever is their direct supervisor or manager to really kind of understand, and having some kind of touch points with them so that they're coaching them properly.
I see.
But yeah, it's become super interesting, because now it's really about, again, when I was recruiting people, right, I can say, look, we're a really small company. We're not VC backed, right? Like, Rearc is totally bootstrapped. Like, we're
so Rearc has been bootstrapped.
We're completely bootstrapped.
I love that, though.
We've had no investment from anybody outside of the founders.
There's power in that.
Yeah.
Like I truly believe in that. I mean, we're bootstrapped. Like it's power in that.
Yep.
But yeah, if you get the extra capital, you can do some amazing things. But at the same time, it's like even if they want to, I don't know, one day exit or whatever, there may be some issues when you have when you're VC backed because
Yep.
now you have a lot of money.
You give away power, right? Every time you take money from somebody else, you are beholden to that person, right? And so that's
Powerful.
one of the things I really love about working where I work is that I am beholden to no one but the people that I work for and with.
Come on now.
That's
Come
it.
on.
And I don't have to worry. And what's awesome is like Milan and Mahesh are not sitting there and going, you know, but yeah, you know, they're not kind of sitting there and just kind of, you know, bottom line and everything has to be about the money and this and that. Like they like to take some risks. They like to look at things. Like for example, the fact that we moved out of cloud and that we're going into data a little bit more, right? That was a risk. That was kind of like that looks cool. Let's try it. And then when they did it, they were just going in 100%. If they were going to do that with someone that was backing them, they would now have to put together the proposal. They would have to figure out like, how is this going to benefit the business? How is this going to benefit your investment and all the other things, right?
Yeah, sure.
Didn't have to do that. And now it's turned into like a really great relationship with Databricks where, you know, we're one of their earlier implementation partners, right? And so there's a lot of power in that, but then there's also a lot for us just to be able to say like, what do we want to do for our people, right? And for me to be able to look at who I'm working with and again, be able to say, listen, this is my company. This is what we do. Do you want to do that with us? Yes or no? And they're like, well, and it's like, look, what I ask you to consider, am I going to pay you enough money to pay your bills, go on vacation, put some money away for retirement, in the way that I ask you to do it, with the people I'm asking you to do it with, right? And just how we ask you to do it. And after a while, they kind of sit there and like, well, yeah, actually, that's not a bad deal. And so in some cases, some of the engineers that work with us, they have had people reach out to them and be like, hey, do you want to come work with us? We'll pay you X amount of money. And they're like, no, thank you.
Because some of that freedom is different. It's different. The way they're approaching business is probably gonna be more rushed, more. Like we got to get this done. Numbers to hit. I mean, you got to always hit numbers in business, but
there's always that.
It's
right?
a different.
Yeah. Like you always want to make sure that you're reaching your revenue targets and that you're doing what you're supposed to do for the business. But at the same time, businesses that take care of their people, the people take care of the business.
Come on now.
It's that simple. And especially for us, we do services just the same way as you're doing services, right? If your people are out there and they're at your customers and they're not happy because you don't take care of them, how are your customers going to feel when they have to work with them? Not too great, right? But in most cases, in fact, I can't think of a bad one. I'm like, all the things that come on my desk, let me think. Every time we get feedback from our customers, it's like, where do you find your engineers? How do you hire them? What's your recruiting process and things like that? And we're like, yo, we're not giving away the secret sauce, right? Like,
right.
You don't need to know that. But it's like, they're trying to hire a lot of the same talent. And so the consultants are going in to fill in these roles that they can't fill. But somehow we're filling them.
Yeah, so there you have a system and process in place that, I mean, HR, that is executing to bring in solid talent. I mean, and that's what's making the company grow in the way it is.
Oh, yeah.
Now, when it comes to integration in HR, automation and processes, can you explain some of the key benefits of that and what you kind of use right now? And I'll integrate the question as well into like technologies that you utilize currently to help your workflow and also the overall process for just HR work in general.
I mean, as far as tech, I think most small companies are just going to have their HRIS, which is what I use. That's going to pay the payroll, where I just have to kind of go in and approve it, and it's going to do what it does, or I can just set it on auto approve.
Right.
It's nice to have technology that will kind of automate some of the pain away. I think we could be doing more with it as far as just helping people to onboard and having some more, I don't know, like notifications and things like that, where people are just kind of like, things are happening because they did a thing, right? Like using the if-then logic better.
So more recognition.
Just more workflows.
Okay, I see.
For within the HRIS, which we're not using right now, which now like it takes time to go in and set it up, and it's like I just haven't.
You gotta
had
have
time
like
to
a
go
whole IT guy.
like I haven't had time to go in and set it up. It's my fault, because other things happen. But as far as automation, like that's kind of the most of it. A lot of the other stuff we still do on our own, right? Like we have people managers that really handle the performance management side of things. We have our recruiter that really does everything kind of by hand. We don't do, so being in a technical company, a lot of people will do something like Crunchbase, right?
Yeah, that's true.
For like testing and things like that. We didn't do that. We have an amazing engineer, Rahul Sen, who built our first Quest, which always makes me laugh because I'm like, look, my engineers, they're sending you on a quest. Okay, this is the technical assessment. You go on a quest. Like, you have to go do the thing. Which I think is funny because it gives you an idea of what the people are like, as far as like, these are my people. This is their sense of humor. They're engineers. You either go with it or, you know.
Right, or you don't.
But all of the technical assessments are homegrown as far as really being practical, where the way that they built them out was, this is what you're going to do every day. This is the work that we do. If you don't like this work, you might not want to be here.
Right.
Kind of a thing, right? And it's never anything that it's like we've had this thing done a million times, right? It's not anything that we're ever going to use at a customer, but it's something where it's like it's a fun little project. It gives the engineers a lot of autonomy as far as how they want to get it done. We don't put any like ticking time bombs in there. So like a lot of the assessments that you get that are from a website or whatever will have like the 3-hour, 4-hour timer. And it's like, you need to sit there and not look at your children and not go to the bathroom. The house can be on fire, but you need to finish the assessment in 3 hours, right? Which is already really stressful. And then we also don't do anything where people are watching you code.
That's gotta be awkward.
I don't want people watching me type. Right?
Yes.
Like with all the typos that I probably will put into something, I don't need people watching me do that. That's just an extra stressor.
Yeah.
So we always try to make sure that, you know, as we're recruiting, and especially with this technical assessment, the idea is go work the way you're going to work for us, right? Take the thing, look at it, decide how you want to put it together, you know, have some ideas, and then just do it how you want to do it. So it's a very autonomous sort of like, you know, own it task.
What would you say? So how do you create a culture of high performance? Like what do you instill in the business to help it, you know, help each employee be a high performer the best they can? Like what kind of culture do you guys have that instills that?
So I think for any company, it's about values alignment, always. If you have ownership as one of your values, which we do, or accountability, people who don't have that quality are not going to do well, right? Because there's a reason that it's a value for the company.
Right.
I always see it as kind of like you're joining a team, right? Like everybody has their favorite sports teams and stuff like that for whatever reason.
Right.
This is the same kind of thing. It's like, here's what we do and this is how we do it. So if your values really reflect what the company is, so I'm trying to think of all the different ones. We have 10. We had so many. We had so many.
So many
that,
values.
like, people were like, what do you want to see in employees that are here? And we did like the whole like post-it thing. And it was like the whole whiteboard was covered in post-its. And there was like, you know, things like humility and, you know, ownership and creativity and excellence and, you know, not being afraid to fail and all these other stuff. And I was just like, okay, that's a lot. There's a lot.
Right.
And then Lindy came in and she was like, we're going to just kind of like boil it down. You know, we just make it 10.
Right.
So, I mean, things that are really important for us are things like, you know, ownership and making sure that you do your tasks. You know, like we don't have a blame culture either. Like people are allowed to fail forward. Right? You can't be afraid to make mistakes. That's how you learn. Right. And I think for me, that's one that took a really long time to learn is like, I'm allowed to make mistakes. Especially because when I make a mistake, it affects the whole company.
Yeah.
Right? And I'm just kind of like, I'm not allowed to make mistakes. And it's like, no, if you did something wrong, you just said whatever. You're not going to be fired for it. And I'm like,
well, how do you track, what metrics do you utilize as indicators for yourself to keep yourself on track as an HR professional at Rearc?
Oh, man. I mean, for me, at this point, I'm doing a lot more like strategic kind of program implementation and things like that, and trying to bring in new initiatives. Initially, like if I was doing recruiting and things like that, of course it's things like time to hire, how many offers get received and are accepted and things like that, and like looking at how the funnel comes down, like or the people that were originally getting in are actually making it to the end, what the percentages are, right? But for me now, it just kind of depends, because it depends on which aspect of HR you're focusing on. So for example, if I'm looking at benefits, right, your biggest trigger is going to be benefits utilization. If people are not using the benefits, they don't like your benefits. So if you need to make a change, you probably need to go and survey your people, or do some focus groups, or talk to people and ask them things. So for example, we went and changed from Oxford to Cigna, and before I even made a decision to see like whether or not we were going to do the change, it was, okay, how many of you actually like what we have right now? How many of you have all your doctors in network? How many of you have your prescriptions covered? How many, like, you know what I mean? And for me, it's easier to do because I have such a small group in comparison to like a 10,000 person company. But I mean, at the end of the day, a survey is a survey. Percentages are percentages, right? If you have 50% of your people not using a benefit, maybe you need to look at it again, right? If you have 75 people that are using the benefit, maybe you keep that benefit. So it's really looking at things like that for utilization, hiring metrics, looking at retention rates, right? Like how much turnover do we have as far as retention, whether or not we're really doing a good job for performance. Looking at how performance is evolving. So for example, if I see someone, like how many people are getting promotions and things like that, like are we actually promoting from within, and being able to see like, are we actually growing our people or not, or are they leaving us because we're not growing them, or are they just failing because we're not paying enough attention to them, things like that. So you kind of want to see how many people are within the company and kind of moving on. Especially if you identify somebody where it's like, yeah, this person's really a high performer, they're amazing, and then all of a sudden you're like, what happened? You didn't support them the right way. You didn't coach them the right way. And I'm a big fan of coaching, just in general. The old way of just doing performance management is not the way to do it. Like, you've got to take it on like a coach, right? One of my favorite books is Bill Walsh's The Score Takes Care of Itself.
Solid book right there.
Love that book. I've read The Football Coaches. I need to get into basketball now. But a lot of just really interesting things that you can always transition into your workplace, right? And really looking at, when you're looking at performance, for us, we also look at approaching things from a lens of being servant leaders. So it's, how do I enable you to do what you need to do, right? What do I need to be doing better as your manager, as your leader, as your coach, to make sure that you're successful in the thing that you do? Because if you're successful, then we're successful. Right? But I mean, as far as metrics, that's kind of the majority of what I'm looking at right now. I'm trying to think, like, we don't have huge departments and things like that where like I would be looking at people analytics and kind of like breaking up,
breaking down every single
all the different
insight.
Departments and the managers and looking how everybody's doing. We do look at the technical leaders though, and see how people are performing under them, the kind of effect that they have, and making sure that they're supporting their teams the way that they're supposed to as well. But it's less metric based and a lot more kind of like sit down and have actual discussions.
And being able to track those type of discussions, being able to break those down, like you have systems in place to be able to do that. So now when you show your stakeholders, they're able to understand exactly where everyone is at from those conversation based. Because like you said, it's hard to track all of that type of stuff. Productivity, like someone on our last interview was just talking about how it takes time to show that return on investment because it's a different type of approach. Like you're not you don't have like a software that you're utilizing, and information gets inputted and comes out with information. Where this is like it's life, it's your people. So you have it's a different type of metric. And
honestly, if we're looking at people and longevity and turnover and things like that, really what you're looking at, if you want to try and monetize it, is to be able to say, well, we have this person here and they've been here for X amount of time. They're becoming more valuable. One of the things that I think some companies overlook, not everybody does, but some people overlook, is institutional knowledge. When I was at the university, you had to find the person who knew where you needed to go to send you to the right person to be able to get a thing done.
Right.
Because if you didn't, and you were just kind of like, well, I think I'm supposed to go here, this person would send you to someone and someone else and someone else and someone else and someone else, and then you would end up in a circle going back to the original person you talked to, right? You just do the runaround. And so there is something to be said for these people that have been at your company for a long time. And when people are doing layoffs and stuff like that, I know, people get targeted because they make big money because, oh, well, they've been here for 20 years. We can hire a new person for way less. Yes, but that person that's been there for 20 years knows how to get things done the way you want them to get it done, or they wouldn't be there for 20 years.
Right. And they understand the culture. And
they understand the culture. And instead of letting them go, they are ambassadors for your company,
Bless you.
Sorry, I have a cough.
No, so that makes sense. So that's the difference between, because I hear different companies that have different structures. They're like, hey, we're gonna hire these new people pretty quickly, or we're gonna hire within. And sometimes they don't want to hire within or like keep promoting people because it may disrupt a specific aspect of their culture. It's really unique how some companies operate, but no, it's cool to hear like how you guys kind of do it.
It's also more difficult to acclimate more senior people. Like, I don't know if you've seen the studies, but when you bring someone in as a manager, or you bring someone in that's on a senior level, they're expected to know how things work.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
And so for you, when you're onboarding them, it's a lot harder to get them up to speed and to get them where they need to be to lead that team.
That's true.
And I also think, more than anything, I'm a fan of building talent. You can buy, borrow, or build, right? You can either pay top dollar for someone to come in and they are going to be like your senior person and do all the things. You can borrow and get contractors, or you can build your talent in-house. And I think that while building may cost more in the long run, you're investing in that person and they're going to invest in you. Right.
That's true. It's a pull and tug. Like you're like, what kind of value, am I going to get as an employee coming to the company, and then what kind of value am I going to get out of you? And it's that back and forth. Like you said, it's not just a body.
I think a lot of people, they look at the job and it's like, what's in it for me, right?
Yeah, and that's a real question to ask. I'm going to be giving my life. I'm giving you life here, time. So that's important. So when it comes to the next, technology is changing in the industry for HR. What does the next 5 to 10 years look like within the HR industry? We got AI, we got, we always got this, the Bitcoin stuff. You got all this type of stuff that's new tech coming into place that's already here. What does it look like? AGI is going to be at some point, artificial general intelligence, where everything is just, it knows who you are. It can walk like R2D2. What does the next 5 to 10 years look like in this space?
I think a lot of reskilling and upskilling.
Interesting.
That's what I really think. I think that technology is always advancing, right? Look at the Industrial Revolution and what happened to people then, right?
That's a great example.
You had people that were going to be replaced by machines. Okay, great. That doesn't mean that they don't have jobs. It means that they need different jobs, right? And so it's the same thing with any time you have some kind of technology where it's like, you know what? And it's part of what we do, right? Like at Rearc, like part of what we do as far as like building out like cloud infrastructure and doing like DevOps is setting up automation so that developers can focus on things that only the developers can do versus having to focus on this other stuff that it's like, these rote sort of tasks, right? And so computers and machines will never be as creative as human beings.
Right.
It's just not going to happen. Man, I read all these books and I can't remember all the things. There's a whole chess thing that you'll see where like the machine would constantly lose because like the human would like just do something creative and the machine would just be like, what was that? But again, technology is only going to be as good as the people that program it.
Right.
And when we're looking at AI and we're looking at learning models and things like that, it's still, again, what we feed it, right? And so the creativity, there's AI art, there's AI music and stuff like that too. And honestly, like if you look at music, there's like formulas to it, just like with art, right? There's sort of like a formula as far as like the aspects that you have to like use that make it pleasing to the eye, right?
Yeah.
Which is really just playing on nature, right? And what humans value or what humans think is attractive. And so I think that a lot of things that, again, human beings can just kind of be like, I just don't need to do that. Like we were talking earlier, right? Where it's like, I need to write some stuff. And I've done this. I'm like feeling really angry and aggressive, and I need to write this email to this person. They're just getting on my nerves. And I cannot get my head on straight to write something that's not going to insult the heck out of them.
Right.
Hi, ChatGPT. Can
Right.
you make this sound less aggressive, please? This is what I'm thinking right
So
now.
true. So
and then
true.
you just kind of go in and just, right?
Yeah.
And then ChatGPT is like, wow, I'm so sorry you're frustrated. Here, let me help you polish that up. And I'm like, thank you.
Thank you so much.
This works just right. So things like that,
Yeah.
obviously, are just huge time savers. I think anything, especially with AI, anything that is like database, like the foundation is within a database, like the legal system or anything where it's like you just need to look something up or you need to figure something out, right? Like, hey, what does this law say? Or is there any law against me doing this thing? Nope, there's no law. Great,
Right.
awesome, right? A lot of those things will probably be, but ChatGPT is not going to go into the courtroom and argue your case.
Exactly. Yeah.
You know what I
I
mean?
saw
Or
somebody try to do that yesterday.
Find a creative way to apply the law, right?
Oh gosh.
Or whatever it is to kind of find the loophole for you to kind of get you out of whatever it was that you did, right?
Yeah.
Or
funny.
be able to persuade another person to maybe change a zoning law for you or whatever it is, right? ChatGPT is not going to do that. And so anything that has to do with people being hands-on or being face-to-face where it's like we need to have a conversation is never going to go away.
Right.
But the other stuff, I don't know. I like having a database at my fingertips. Like I used to have Encyclopedia Britannica. I remember going through those books. Like we used to have like 50 volumes.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah, I remember that.
And it was like, oh, you want to find something? Great. When were these published? 1972.
And you gotta go back and look at the
I don't know.
whole
Science
list.
has evolved since then. Czechoslovakia doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah, it has to be updated.
Things need to be updated. So, in that area, I think that's going to grow. I think, VR is going to be really interesting again. I think there's going to be a lot more use cases for it. Just the thoughts. I mean, we've already seen just like back in the day, you already had like pilot simulations for astronauts or pilots. You already had like race car simulators and things like that were already kind of up and coming. But now you've got some really interesting other uses where it's not just about how you drive the car or do the thing. Now it's like I can sit here and actually rewire my brain.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or like figure out how to get through a stressful situation by exposing myself to that situation over and over so that when I finally get to that point, I know exactly what I want to say.
Exactly.
Right? Like there are times where you may be overcome with emotion, right? In a specific situation where you need to have a tough conversation with someone. And I mean, this happens with terminations, right? That is a tough conversation to have when you need to let someone go. And I always tell folks, I'm like, look, you need a script. What? It's like, no, listen to me. This is going to be the kind of conversation, especially when you don't want to do it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, nobody ever really wants to do it. But when it's like a layoff or something where it's like, this is like a really hard conversation because we would not be letting this person go if not for, right? Having a script and going through it in your head and kind of rehearsing it and looking at it after a while, it might seem callous to someone that you've written a script, but there are we were saying with the VR situation, right? Wrongful termination or whatever it is. Well, not wrongful termination, but let's say terminations coaching, right? Perfect opportunity to take a manager or a supervisor and put them through the situation and just be like, look, go practice. Like, this is not something you want to do. So you need to go and practice it because it's, like eat the frog, go. And so you can stick them in the VR. You can see how they handle it and just be like, okay, we're going to give you like a really difficult person to deal with. Great. Awesome. Go tell them that they lost their job and let's see how you do.
Boom.
You could do that. Or you could do something with coaching, right? Like, here's a person that really needs some help. We identify them as a high potential person. For whatever reason, for the last 3 months, they have just not been performing, right? Like, we brought them in, they were a rock star, and then something happened. We don't know what, right? Go in and coach. and see what happens with the VR person that we programmed. Like, these are all really great ways, I think, for like HR to be able to take advantage of that, just from an internal setting. You could do something with team building, right? If you were going to have everybody in different areas, like this would be, I think, an obvious choice, just to have people be like, all right, everybody's going to join the room and we're all going to go do a thing, and like go throw axes together in a virtual room, or, you know, go break some stuff in a virtual, whatever,
Right.
like escape room, virtual room, where people are just, you know, distributed everywhere. But you can still at least get that kind of like in-person feeling, right?
Right.
I always think remote work is great, don't get me wrong, but I don't think it's about not going to the office as much as it is about having the autonomy and flexibility to do what you want to do.
Exactly.
Right? And how you want to do it. And in a lot of cases, it's just about being trusted to be an adult, right? And so being able to come in some way, to be around people, first of all, it helps people as far as their social wellness, just to be able to be around other people and to just kind of have the interactions and things like that and be in the same room rather than just being behind a screen, so to speak, because you can actually see people's expressions. You kind of pick up their, like, people are social, like you pick up the energy, everything,
It's true.
right? And so I can see why being in the office is nice, but you got to give me a reason, right? The idea of, you know, we're going to make you come back to the office 5 days a week because we said so doesn't fly with me.
Yeah.
You got to give me a reason to come in. If I could do the job just as well being home, then I'm just going to be home. And I don't have to get on the train for an hour, and I have to, like, whatever it is, and walk through the city and whatever else, right? But again, like VR, doing something like that, other professions, like, again, we were talking about firefighters or looking at police officers, military personnel, things like that, where you take high-risk situations and you de-risk, right? You get them into these situations to do things. The conversation we had about the jail, right? Like rewiring, like, oh my God, my husband showed me this thing and it was insane. He was like, we used to have like 700 fights a week and now we had one. And I was like, I'm sorry, did you say one? They put people into situations that they normally would not have been exposed to in their life as they grew up. Like, you know, a lot of people like to talk about my lived experience. Let's give you something different. Right? And let you live through something different so that you can kind of feel like, hey, this is also a possibility for you, right? And the idea that we put people in jail and the recidivism rate is horrible and they're always going back because they don't know what else they're supposed to do, because they don't have the skills or they don't have the mentality to like go out and do something different. I love this idea of putting them in a VR headset and just being like, this is the other stuff that you could do. And dude, I would buy them every VR, like I would just have them all day on a VR headset, right? If that was gonna fix it, I'd be like, oh, do the thing.
Solve this problem.
And just put them in like a peaceful Zen garden like all day and then have them come out and be like, oh, awesome, right?
Yeah.
Lots of opportunities, I think, as technology is growing and things are changing. But I also think, again, technology is great, but people are people.
Yeah.
We've only evolved so far, right? Over 10,000 years, and our brains have gotten ahead of us quite a bit as far as some of the other stuff that we have available to us. Like if we look at social media and the damage that it's done to an entire generation before we really understood how bad it was going to be, or even like, oh my God, my children watch videos constantly and there's no pausing. Right? Remember when we were kids, you had commercials, you had to wait, you could only watch your cartoons from 3:30 to 5 because then the news came on, you know? There were boundaries for those kinds of things. And I think that, you know, at least for one generation, that got away from us a little bit, right? And especially during COVID, you can see the effect that it's had on kids as they're growing, right? And not having them be social and having them be on these electronics all the time.
Yeah. There's no governor. There's no, you know, governor means like there's a governor on a car that allows the car to go with certain speed. Once you take the governor off, it can go on that max speed that you see.
No longer street legal.
Yeah.
Nice Lamborghini would be beautiful.
You know?
Yeah, I mean, lots of opportunities, but I always think that no matter what we do with technology, we still need to keep the people first and keep it people focused. Because if we start replacing people, right, it's not just about, hey, we just cut our head count by like 500 because now a machine can do the thing. Yeah, but I bet you these people could do something else.
Yeah.
Right? And so at that point, I think it's in some cases, looking at the company, yeah, this is what you do, but there are some other opportunities here. Maybe you don't let 500 go, maybe you let 200 go or 300, and you keep the other ones to be able to go and now do the new things that you need because you've got this new AI or you've got this new whatever it is you brought in, right? This new tech.
Exactly.
Because at the end of the day, somebody still has to run the tech.
Yep, someone still has to be back there doing it.
And why not like have someone who's already close to it? Like for me, if I was like Henry Ford and I was, starting to get an assembly line in, the guy who was putting the cars together before the assembly line should be the person running the line, because he knows what it's supposed to look like. He knows how it's supposed to be done. You know what I mean? And if the machine isn't doing the job, he can come in and be like, yo, the machine's not working.
Yep.
Right? So why wouldn't you just naturally transition these people to now be the ones that supervise the machines?
Exactly. Honestly, that's what's going to happen. So like IT, they were saying, the gentleman from the video just saying IT will be the new HR for AI. In that way, how to handling AI, because you need someone to be on the back end, like working the algorithms and making sure that everything's
and some of those AI models get out of control.
They
right?
do, yeah, they do.
In some cases, and it's not necessarily an intentional thing, right? Like sometimes you'll have biases that kind of get built into something over time, only because the human that programmed it had a bias.
Exactly.
In some way. And it might not be an overt bias. I was talking to my husband about this because I read about this case with like Pepperdine University is the thing that I remember. And this company was using AI for recruiting. It was going through the resumes like, oh my God, it's making everything so much easier because now we just have the AI go through and parse through the resumes, and then we just get the resumes in and they're the right people. For whatever reason, the AI started learning. Pepperdine University was where everybody went to school. So like people in the office would be talking, be like, hey, get to know each other. So where'd you go to school? Oh, I went to Pepperdine. I went to Pepperdine. Oh, that's so cool. Yeah, so-and-so went there too. The AI, for whatever reason, learned that people that work here go to Pepperdine University. So everybody else that went to Rutgers or went to Montclair or went to Princeton or MIT or whatever, right, were sourced out because they didn't go to Pepperdine.
Yeah, so it automatically just kind of.
But not because anybody necessarily said, like, we're only looking for Pepperdine. It was just that as people were looking at resumes, maybe someone who went to Pepperdine was like, oh, this is really cool. They went to my school. And they started picking more Pepperdine people than other.
Right.
Right? And so the model was like, oh, well, you prefer this. So now this is all I'll show you.
Interesting. Well, I mean, that's how those models work. Like, whoever's behind it will create the bias. So like, I was teaching on ethical AI and responsibility to some students and some corporate leaders. And yeah, that's a lot that comes into play. It's like, who's behind the engine and how can you create the engine to be balanced? Yeah, how do you keep it balanced? Because you look at ChatGPT, like, yeah, you're going to have more like, I think they fixed it now, but like, yeah, more Caucasian. And then I remember Gemini, they had more Black and Indian because of that bias.
Well, Gemini kind of went a little crazy at some point with like, show me what like a 17th century French person looked like, and it was like
it was a whole Black person.
Or like, show me someone in Russia.
It was a Black person or Indian person, yeah. So so it lets you know right there, like, okay, how do you keep? You just got to put those parameters in, but I could tell how hard that can be. Because you're training it on every single little thing, and it's supposed to, you want it to think like a human, to think without the human that doesn't have the biases.
It's like having a child. It really is. It's like having a child. And so, I have to say, learning and development got really interesting once I had kids. Really interesting, and it was just because I loved watching like how they learned how to do things. And even just from like a singing perspective, we're always like raging on each other about posture and like, the whole thing. Watching the children, and I was like, oh my God, look how straight they are. And they just do that. Like, we fight over it because we spend our days at a desk and we do this all day, and then we walk around all hunched over doing whatever it is, right? Their bodies, the way that they are, is like, wow, that's what it's supposed to look like. Awesome. Or, when they start learning things, like my kids now hate practicing. And I was like, do you know how long it took you to walk? It took you a really long time to walk. It took you a long time to sit up. You know what I mean? Like, you didn't sit up for like 4 or 5 months. Like, this is, like, it takes time, and to see, how they learn, right? And having two of them was really interesting because the older one then would feed into the younger one, and learning language, the repetition that it takes to learn a language, or how to say that this is a table, right?
La mesa.
It's like,
No.
or la mesa. But, now my kids don't get it. And I was like, you don't understand. When you have another kid, the second one learns a lot faster because the first one is running around going, table, 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 all day long. Grown-ups don't do that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so the AI is kind of the same thing. You have to really think about what you feed it and what you give it and what you teach it and what you show it, right? For it to actually do what it should be doing. And so, I don't think people necessarily intentionally will bias their model, right? But at the same time, it's just really doing it with intention, the same way that you do with a human being, right? You have to have the same kind of intention as you're programming your model to make sure that it's not biased and that it's doing what you want it to do. And then test a lot, like go in at least once a quarter and like make sure, like, hey, let's feed it something and see what happens.
Right.
And I think that is its own consulting model on its own. It's like people should be brought in constantly just to be able to say, like, verify that the model isn't biased. Because with HR, I think I remember reading, somebody was suing Workday.
Oh boy.
I'm pretty sure they were suing Workday because they didn't get a job. There's something
the system, that makes
because the system knocked them out. And so the government, like the federal government, decided now that companies need to properly vet whatever it is that they're using, because if they don't, they're going to be also liable, not just the company, like not just Workday, right, but the company that uses Workday.
Right. No, it makes sense. I mean, that's going to affect a lot of companies too. I mean, because I know you have a lot of applicants. It gets kind of tough. Like when you have like 4,000 applicants. I remember I was talking to Signa. They're like, we have like 50,000 applicants that come in and it's like you got to vet through that, and you're trying to find someone out of that.
I mean,
batch.
some companies get 10,000 a day.
Jeez.
Like big companies, like Google or Apple or something like that. I'm pretty sure they get like something around 10,000 a day.
Yeah.
Because everybody wants to work there, and so they're gonna try.
You got to vet through all those people. So yeah. So last two questions. Last question is, what kind of advice would you give HR, anyone wanting to dive into HR that are looking to get into the career? What quote would you give them? What type of advice would you give them? And then I have one special thing at the end that we're gonna do here that we have on the show.
Okay. I don't have a quote. Advice. I would say just focus on your people, right? Like try really hard, again, to like just be that person that's in the middle who works for the people and works for the company. It's not easy. Sometimes it's easy because when you work with good people, right, it can be easy. But sometimes it's not. And so I'm not saying like try to be everybody's friend.
Yeah.
But make sure that they understand that, look, while the business pays my salary, I'm not just here to kind of just do whatever they say. I'm here to make sure that they do the right thing by you.
Right.
But I'm also here to make sure you do the right thing by them.
Love that. Make sure they take that away. I mean, because someone said this the other day, return on care. People look at the return on investment, but return on the ROC. What's the ROC look like? Let's see those ROC insights. Return on care is important. I mean, the people in the organization make their organization flow. So it's like if folks aren't feeling good, they're not going to be as productive. If it's a toxic work environment, it's good, or culture, like you need to have it to be a place where they feel like it's home, where they'll stay I want to stay here for the next 20 years. Mm-hmm. I mean, I know that's Gen Z, is a little different, but I mean, like, hey, if you can get Gen Z to stay somewhere for 20 years, I mean, hey, like that's powerful. Mm-hmm. So it lets you know, like, a powerful work culture that you have. So that's unique. So thanks for sharing that.
Yeah.
So here on the show, we do something really unique that's different. And we have an envelope in front of you. And this envelope has a question from the former guest that was on the show.
Oh.
She has a question that she gave you, and she didn't even know it was you. She just
All right.
knows the next person.
I believe it's LaSharn
Yep.
Ferruti.
Yep.
Who is the one person that you need to meet for all of your dreams to come true? I have no idea. I don't have one, honestly. Like, there were a lot of people that I would have liked to have met.
Yeah.
That it was just like, oh, that was such a cool person. Why did they die? You know, like, oh, there goes my one chance. I would have said my husband.
Okay. Why?
Honestly. Yeah. There's not really anybody else for all of my dreams to come true. Like, nobody's gonna do that for me. So it's like an interesting question.
Yeah, it's a deep one. You gotta really sit down and think about it.
So I would say, yeah, it would be my husband, because that's the person that I grow with. That's the person I live with every day. And if we're gonna do anything, we're gonna do it together.
Yeah.
You know.
No,
I feel like that's such a cop out.
No, I mean, no, that's your answer. Your answer is your answer. So I mean, that's because like you both have created life together, beautiful children. I mean, your dreams have come true together, like coming together as one. So I mean, that's a great answer. That's a great answer. Yeah. So
I feel like most people would be like Bill Gates,
Abraham Lincoln.
See, but he died. See, that would have been cool. I would have loved to have met like Lincoln, Teddy Roosevelt. I would have loved to have met Mirella Freni, like on the singing side. You know, like there are lots of people where it's like, man, you were really cool. Like I would have loved to have just had a conversation.
Just one
like,
convo.
kind of a thing, but nothing where.
Yeah, that's not. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there's a show called Timeless on
I've seen it.
Amazon. Okay, so I'm about to say, yeah, if you've seen that, it kind of brings it back. Like, man, what would it have been like if you had a conversation with someone? So, from every time period,
Yep.
which is so cool. So, all right, so your turn. Write your question down write any question down that comes to heart that you want to give to the next guest. And the next guest, I'm actually going to interview tomorrow. so this is actually going to be pretty fun. So yeah, the next guest, that give him the question that you feel is going to, just any question you would ask anybody or you feel that needs to be answered, and follow the same format. And while you do that, I'm just gonna go ahead and close this out, and I'm just gonna say, you could just write it down. So, Cristina, thank you so much for coming on the show. Like, it was amazing having you. Like, this was powerful. Like to be in person and for us to be able to get your insight. I mean, when we first got a chance to meet, like I can tell, very intelligent woman, understands her stuff. Gamer, singer, like, oh my gosh.
Tell people about the gamer part.
Like, okay. We'll edit that out. But like, very impactful woman that understands her stuff. Like, and thanks for sharing your insights on HR. I think a lot of people are going to take a lot from this and improve what they're doing in their operations effectively. And then even hearing, just having the conversation about like being bootstrapped as a company, like those conversations, it was some great stuff, because like you're not just, you seem more, like you said, more business strategic in HR, which is powerful to have instead of just like more admin support. So that's what I like from the first conversation we've had. I noticed right away. I was like, she's very, very intelligent, very high level thinker. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. So thank you so much.
Yeah, it was great to talk with you and see you again. And I hope we get to do it again.
Yeah, we'll have a part 2 for sure.
You're going to bring me down to Atlanta.
Definitely will. Oh, well, we could do that.